Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. You have tuned into the Rebel News live stream on this, a Monday, March 24th, 2025. I'm David Menzies, and my co-host, well, folks, let me tell you a little about my co-host. Do you know that today is National Cheesesteak Sandwich Day? So finally, my co-host has a valid excuse to visit the city of Philadelphia. She is the she-devil with a sword. She is the Khaleesi of Northern Alberta. She is the sensational Sheila Gunn Reid. How you doing there, Sheila?
I'm doing great. Please don't talk about food while I'm fasting for Lent, particularly cheesesteaks, the cheese and the meat. It's well, those are my two food groups basically, and I've given up meat for Lent, which is very difficult for me because I eat a largely carnivore diet. So at this point, I'm very concerned that I'm going to come down with mercury poisoning because I've eaten too much fish. I've actually decided that I should reduce the size of the fish that I've been eating from like the tunas and the salmons down to the sardines and the smaller guys because I'm starting to get worried. But I take Sundays off.
Well, certainly I can think of no other person in the world that should be fasting than you. You're already too skinny. You know me, I like a little meat on the bones.
Yeah, that's why I do it. That's why I do it.
Well, then, yeah, the rules of unattraction, if you will. But, you know, Sheila, before you get into laying down the rules, I've got some breaking news.
Okay.
Well, maybe it's not rules. Maybe it's just a very interesting anecdote. It goes back to last week when Prime Minister Carney very condescendingly said to Rosemary Barton, "Look within yourself," at a press conference. He didn't like being queried about his personal assets and possible conflict of interest as a prime minister. And Sheila, I was racking my brain. Where have I heard this line? Where in pop culture have I heard this line? So I'm going to get super producer, and I came up with it on the weekend. Finally, the penny dropped.
Of course you did.
Let's throw to Mark Carney talking about saying that condescending remark to Rosemary Barton. Then we'll throw to a clip from one of my favorite movies of all time. And wow, can you tell the difference, folks? I can't tell the difference. Check it out.
Stephanie, I'm complying with the rules. I'm complying with the rules in advance.
You say you are not open to any conflict of interest.
Yes.
Trump spent most of his life in the private sector. There's no possible conflict of interest in your assets. It's very difficult to believe.
Look inside yourself, Rosemary. I mean, you start from a prior of conflict and ill will. I have served in the private sector. I have stood up for Canada. I have left my roles in the private sector.
We can go to the other clip, Olivia. Okay, look inside yourself, Rosemary. Now, let's check out this little clip, circa 1991, from one of my favorite movies of all time.
Agent Starling! Agent Starling! I would not have had that happen to you. Discourtesy is unspeakably ugly to me.
Then do this test for me.
No, but I will make you happy. I'll give you a chance for what you love most.
What is that, Doc?
Advancement, of course. Listen carefully. Look deep within yourself, Clarice Starling. Go seek out Miss Moffat, an old patient of mine, M-O-F-E-T. Go now.
So, Sheila, Prime Minister Mark Carney, serial killer Hannibal Lecter. Can you tell the difference? I can't tell the difference, at least when they're conversing with a female person.
Yeah, he put himself in the Hannibal Lecter role in that. That seems about right, actually. Let's tell everybody what we're doing around here, because the day is just jam-packed. As you know, we had an election call yesterday, putting it at April 28th. So it's going to be nonstop for us. It's going to be a sprint for the next month and a bit here at Rebel News, and hopefully our friends at home can help us. But if you are watching us on Rumble, thank you for sticking it out there. That is a wonderful, great free speech platform that has stood beside Rebel News when nobody else could, like even before X had flipped into X from the censorship platform of Twitter. So if you're watching us there and you want to support our work, because as you know, we'll never take a penny from Prime Minister Mark Carney or any level of government to hold government to account on behalf of the people, you can leave a paid chat there. It's called a Rumble Red. If it's over the $5 US cutoff, we're reading it on air. That's an obligation. If it's under that, we'll do our best to get to it, time permitting. Now, if you are also watching us on the very recently remonetized censorship platform of YouTube, and I will continue to call it a censorship platform, but we are remonetized there. If you are watching us there, you can leave us a super chat. Same rules apply. If it's over the $5 US cutoff, we'll read it on air. If it's under that, we're going to do our very best. But if you are watching the recorded version of the show, you can also leave a paid comment. It's called a super thanks, and we appreciate you so much, because every little bit helps here at Rebel News. As you know, we are not a big operation. We're lean and mean, and we stretch your dollar as far as we possibly can. So let's get into the news of the day. I alluded to it off the top. Mark Carney called an election for April 28th.
There is so much more to do to secure Canada, to invest in Canada, to build Canada, to unite Canada. That's why I'm asking for a strong, positive mandate from my fellow Canadians. I've just requested that the Governor General dissolve Parliament and call an election for April 28th.
Well, Sheila, I think we have an answer to the query, who has more charisma, Mark Carney or Hannibal the Cannibal Lecter? It's Hannibal Lecter in a landslide. Boy, do you feel the energy just draining out of the room?
Yes.
That's why I facetiously call him Mr. Charisma. This is the shortest election you're allowed to have, 36 days. So April 28 is the day we've got a circular in our calendars. Obviously, I think, Sheila, the strategy by the Liberal Party of Canada, and I don't think it's going to work, is let's have the shortest election possible so that the media, well, those who care in the media, can't dredge up any kind of, uncomfortable information about Mr. Carney, like what really was his relationship with Miss Maxwell, the recruiter, if you will, for Epstein Island. And let's strike while the iron is hot versus big bad orange man to the south. I think that's going to peter out really in the days ahead. And I really, really think, Sheila, even though the polls went from conservative landslide just a few months ago to a horse race and a photo finish at that, I don't believe the polls. I do not, because
No.
the question in any election is simply this: are you better off now than you were, in this case, 10 years ago under blackface? And part B is, let us never forget that Mr. Carney was an advisor to Justin Trudeau for the last 5 years. He's campaigning against policies that he advocated. And these policies are political plagiarism. Everything he's running on has been stolen from Pierre Poilievre's platform. What are your thoughts, Khaleesi?
Yeah, Mark Carney has the flat affect of an overly medicated, slightly alcoholic Beverly Hills housewife. Like he's just if I feel like he's in a trance all the time, attempting to put me into a trance. Like there are a lot of exciting things happening in the Canadian political landscape, a lot of outrageous things that drive public outrage, and you would get none of that from him. Like he's so unexcitable, and he should be. Yeah. You're running to lead people. You want to run on fresh ideas. I guess the problem is all the ideas he's running against are his own. so it sort of leaves you with nothing. Yeah, except I guess campaigning against Trump. And as you know, Carney was endorsed by Trump because Prime Minister Carney makes Canada weak. So anyways, let's watch this. He says Trump wants to break us. Efron or Olivia, if you want to cut me off the screen, I've got to go take some bread out of the oven. I'll be right back.
President Trump wants to break us so America can own us. We will not let that happen. We are over the shock of the betrayal, but we should never forget the lessons. We have to look out for ourselves, and we have to look out for each other, just like you did in Gander all those years ago. And that's what my government is doing during this crisis. We're acting to protect workers by using every dollar that we collect from retaliatory tariffs to go to workers. I announced that earlier this week. Because we're stronger when we're together. Because we're all in this together, healthcare in Canada is a right, not a big business. Because we're all in this together, our government created $10 a day childcare for hardworking families. Because we're all in this together, we created the Canadian Dental Care Plan. We can't afford to let anyone, not American politicians or Canadian politicians, make us angry or divided. As Diane said to me earlier, we can't let them change us. They need to be more like us. President Trump's plan is to divide and conquer. Pierre Poilievre's plan is to divide and be conquered. Yet, my opponent, Pierre Poilievre, doesn't get this. He doesn't understand what's needed in a crisis. He doesn't understand that leadership's Canadians want in their time of need. In fact, his language sounds a bit familiar. As Daniel Smith has said, Pierre Poilievre is in sync with Donald Trump.
Well, folks, that is absolutely remarkable. You have Mr. Carney saying that both President Trump and Pierre Poilievre want to divide us. To use a Lecter line, Mr. Carney, look within yourself. Your government, and you've been an advisor for 5 years, you have done everything to divide Canadians, be it the trucker convoy, be it the mandatory vaccinations under economic penalization, be it the biggest attempted gun grab in our Dominion's history. Blackface has set Canadians against one another. He has caused so much division. I don't even recognize our once great Dominion anymore, Sheila. So I find it a little rich when Carney is going on about the threat of division. I have never in all my adult life seen this country so divided thanks to the last decade of liberal mismanagement.
You know, Mark Carney is the guy who wrote the op-ed, I think it was in the Globe and Mail, maybe it was in the Ottawa Citizen, doesn't matter, calling convoy protesters, peaceful convoy protesters, people who didn't want to take an inoculation against unemployment against their will. He called them seditionists.
Yeah.
Seditionists, enemies of the state. And he advised treating them as though they are like supporters of the Freedom Convoy. Yeah, it was the Globe and Mail. How dare they, actually? This is kind of gross. Time to end the sedition in Ottawa by enforcing the law and following the money. Well, as it would turn out, the law they wanted to enforce and that they did enforce, the Emergencies Act, was illegally invoked. And he wanted these people and advised the government to treat these people like financiers of terrorism if you donated to the Freedom Convoy. So how dare Mark Carney say that Pierre Poilievre is dividing people for at least the last 5 years? Anybody who disagreed with the Liberal policy was either fringe radical extremist, white supremacist, neo-Nazi adjacent, some sort of crypto fascist, or some Christian white nationalist. I've just absolutely had it with these people calling other people things that they are. Mark Carney, the phone call is coming from inside the House. It's your own party, and how dare you take the high road on this, or at least claim to take the high road, because he's not on it.
You know, Sheila, you raised some excellent points there, and I want to further add my 2 cents worth. First of all, this whole business of branding those who are right of center as seditionists, as supporting terrorist causes, as being so many white supremacists. You know, Sheila, it's amazing. The Liberal campaign slogan in this campaign is Canada Strong. For the Conservatives, it's Canada First. They're very similar sounding. They're both good, I think. But it is the left-wing media that is vilifying Pierre Poilievre's Canada First slogan. They are saying, and I'm not making this up, folks, this is racist and it's code speak for white supremacy. I kid you not. Secondly, I really hope, if I had one wish on this election campaign, it would be one of the trained SEALs on the Mark Carney bus, the mainstream media Carney-funded journalist, to ask Mr. Carney this when it comes to being a seditionist. What do you think, Mr. Carney, of what we saw in cities yesterday in Canada, the vile and violent Al-Quds rally, where you had people displaying swastikas, where you had people dressing up as Sinwar in cosplay, where you had people chanting genocide to the Jewish people? Law enforcement did nothing. I take that back, Sheila. Law enforcement gave the Islamists an escort as they marched up University Avenue, blocking that avenue to 5 major hospitals, including sick kids. So, Mr. Carney, what do you have to say about those people? What do you have to say about those people who clearly hate Canadian values, clearly hate Western values? They're waving all kinds of flags. You won't see a Canadian flag. I thought that was fashionable to wrap oneself in the Canadian flag these days. Not with this crew. So, Mr. Carney, will you denounce that? I would love to hear that question asked, Sheila, and I would love to hear the answer.
You mean you want Mr. We Agree with Hamas to denounce the Hamas radicals on the street? Is that what you're asking?
That was lost in translation, according
Good luck
to
to you.
Fraulein Freeland.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, this is the party of medical segregation, right?
Yeah.
This is the party that created biomedical elites and a biomedical underclass in this country, accusing other people of fostering division. They've done nothing but call names for Canadians, against Canadians, for at least the last 5 years. And if you were Christian, going back further than that. It's just that they got around to calling everybody else names towards the end of their Trudeau's era. Let's move ahead, though, because if you go to a Mark Carney event, which we are not allowed to do, but I look at the footage of a Mark Carney event, And it looks like the Lord's waiting room. There's a lot of aging white boomers there. The problem is aging white boomers get out and vote. And that should be a lesson to everybody else that they need to get out and vote. Just do not count on the momentum of the Conservatives. If you are voting for your issues and your issues are conservative, you got to show up at the ballot box. These rallies that Pierre Poilievre are holding are enormous. Like they've got to their fire code enormous. Like you get up to like max capacity and they've got to close the doors because there are too many people at these things, and it is diverse. That's what I've seen at these Poilievre. Like look at this.
Yeah.
Going, and it's all kinds of people. It's not just your aging white boomers of the Liberal Party. Anyways, this is the North York rally. And this is kind of a cute little quip from Poilievre.
We fight for what's right. Who's ready to put Canada first for a change? Who's ready to axe some taxes? Who's ready to build some homes? Hey, who's ready to bring home the Canadian promise? You know, this morning, little baby Cruz here was actually a fighter pilot. He had a fighter pilot jacket on, but now he's got a baseball jacket on. So he understands something that the Liberals perhaps do not. Here, for 3 terms, they provided weak and out-of-touch leadership. 3 terms, they drove up costs and crime. 3 terms, they sent our jobs south and pushed our economy under the American thumb. My little boy understands something the Liberals do not, which is that in baseball and in politics, it's 3 strikes and you're out.
Yeah, Sheila, it sure looks like a KKK hate fest to me.
Yeah. Did you notice that?
And Sheila, ace cameraman Leapin' Lincoln Jay and I were at that rally. And I'm going to report maybe what the mainstream media failed to report. And that was this. Lots of unhappy campers. Oh, no, not demonstrators. Hundreds and hundreds, maybe more than 2,000 people who could not get into the rally to show their support for Pierre Poilievre. I'll tell you, Sheila, as big as that venue was, it was, as they say, you know, that classic line from Jaws, we're going to need a bigger boat. Well, Team Poilievre needs bigger venues, even in red Toronto. I would have booked the Coca-Cola Coliseum, where some of the pro hockey teams play, for the stage capacity, that is 9,250. I think they could have sold that out. Maybe Scotiabank's, too big where the Leafs and Raptors play, but the Coca-Cola Coliseum right in the sweet spot. And I'm going to tell you a couple of observations in addition to the diversity of the people there. Sheila, the number of young people was astonishing. And we know this is a trend. We know that, especially if you're living in a city like Toronto or Vancouver, home ownership was always kind of a distant dream. Now it is an impossible dream. It is an impossible dream. Young people realize that. Young people realize I'm going to be living in the basement of a relative for my foreseeable adult future. And they moved over. It's in stark contrast to the famous Winston Churchill quote, if you aren't a liberal when you're 20, you don't have a heart. If you're not a conservative when you're 40, you don't have a brain. Well, guess what? These young under 20 people are voting conservative. So I think this, what happened, even though there was a lot of unhappy campers that couldn't get in, I think that's a positive sign. It's kind of like comparing a Trump rally to a Biden or Harris rally. And one last point on the polls, Sheila, and this is why I do not believe they are accurate. When you see the turnout at these Poilievre rallies, it's kind of like the polls that we saw in the last U.S. election. Oh, too close to call, too close to call. Oh, really? All 7 swing states went to Trump. He won the Electoral College. He won the popular vote. I'm getting that vibe. And my point is, Sheila, those conservatives out there or those on the fence who do not like what the Liberals have done to Canada in the last 10 years, if they believe these polls, good. It will motivate them to get their keisters out on April 28th and vote conservative. I think this whole strategy of ginning up these poll numbers is going to backfire badly.
You know, there's something else I noticed going on in this election, and I think it represents a huge change. Chief Ellis Ross, former chief of the Haisla First Nation, he's running in Skeena Buckley Valley in BC for the Conservatives. And one of my favorite candidates for the Conservative Party of Canada is Chief Billy Morin of the Enoch Cree First Nation. He's running in Edmonton Northwest. These are 2 prominent Indigenous leaders who have been striving for years to build a better future for their people through economic reconciliation and oil and gas. And they are both running for the Conservatives. There's something about the Conservative messaging, and I think it is that you want the government out of your life always, but that has been something that has really been a hindrance for Indigenous people in this country. There's something happening that is really resonating with Canada's Indigenous people. I don't think they're buying the liberal white savior thing that the Liberals have done for all this time. I'm happy to see it. I just noticed over the weekend, I had remembered that the Conservatives had sort of wooed Chief Billy, but I didn't know that Ellis Ross was going to run for them in BC. So great stuff, I think.
And Sheila, can you explain to me why someone who is Indigenous would support the Liberals in the here and now, given that how many dozens of reserve, I think it's in the 50 range, are still under boil advisory warnings for clean drinking water? I mean, imagine that. I believe our nation has the most fresh water in the world, and we have people living on reserves that have to boil the water before they drink it or they're going to get sick. And we saw what Blackface did many years ago. I think it was a lady from Grassy Narrows Reserve where he mocked her. He made a joke out of her concerns. So again, to my Indigenous brothers and sisters, why would you support this party in the first place?
Well, I mean, just look at the broken promise on that. You know, like Justin Trudeau campaigned on clean drinking water on reserves. And there are still boil water advisories out there. He's failed. And I don't know. I'm glad to see that Indigenous leaders, many of them, are not willing to give the Liberals another chance. I mean, they continue to cart out Jean Chrétien as one of the Liberal Party brain trusts. He's the last Aboriginal Affairs Minister to sign off on the residential schools. So if that's an issue for you, every time they drag old Chrétien out of the crypt, dust him off and put him in front of a camera, he should be asked about that. Given that this is the top of consciousness for a lot of Indigenous people, the residential school issue, why do they keep trotting that old sack of bones out as some sort of thought leader in the Liberal Party? You'd think that they'd be wise enough to hide him, but they know that they're not going to get those sorts of issues from the government money contaminated mainstream media. We should move ahead.
Oh, Sheila, I have one question to ask. It's very important regarding the Indigenous issue. And if you don't know the answer, that's okay. I'm not trying to put you on the spot. I only ask because you live in an area where there are a lot of Indigenous people and reserves. As a demographic, as a voting bloc, do Indigenous people come out to vote, or they just shrug and say, you know, meet the new boss, same as the old boss? I don't know what the answer is. I don't know if this has ever been
I think it depends on where you are. I think it depends on where you are. I know that in Alberta, you know, it's very pro oil and gas. Again, it's economic reconciliation. And, you know, there's no more an Indigenous industry than oil and gas. Like Indigenous people are overrepresented by percentage of the population in oil and gas because it's in their communities. It's a vehicle out of generational poverty. And so in Alberta, but I know in Manitoba it's much different. So I don't know if I can make those like sort of sweeping declarations. I just don't know the answer to that. I know what it's like here. I don't know, and I know it's different and even different in parts of BC, right? So I don't know.
Fair enough.
Yeah, we should move ahead because Mark Carney is being Mark Carney. He called the cops on fishermen.
Wait a minute. Liberal MP would condemn you for that word, George
Fisher
Sabara.
folk.
Yeah, fisher folks. Fisher
yeah,
folks.
Fisher folks.
Please
yeah,
be politically correct and woke here, Sheila.
Fisher people kind. He called the cops on them. They showed up to protest the Liberal Party. And I'm not sure what their issue was. I didn't dig too much. Quotas. I was going to say it could have something to do with the tariffs China slapped on Canadian seafood because of the 100% tariffs that the Liberals slapped on Chinese EVs. So now fishermen, fisher folk, fisher kind are being caught up in this trade war along with Western Canadian farmers because the Liberals have decided to slap these protectionist tariffs on EV vehicles so they can protect, I guess, the bailouts they gave to failing EV companies in Ontario and Quebec. So this is something to see, actually, from down east. And I'm here for every minute of it, except for the police being called. I like the fishermen protesting. I don't like the police being called. Did we have any footage or was it just B-roll?
Just B-roll, Sheila. Yeah. Let me tell you something, Sheila. As you may know, I lived 2 years of my life in Newfoundland. You can't find more salt of the earth Canadians than those employed in the fishing industry. These are hard working people, sometimes in the most brutal of conditions. And for Mark Carney, is he ever showing his globalist elitist? Who are these
yucky fishermen?
Yeah, these peasants trying to get into my she rally, and where all the king's horses and all the king's men prevent this from happening. That is a horrible look. That's a terrible look right now. And what they're and it's not Chinese tariffs, Sheila. It is 100% Liberal policies, quotas that are putting these guys out of business no matter how hard they work.
Yeah. So these guys have, what do they call it? Compiling issues. So you've got the Liberal Party quotas, and then you've got the Liberal Party tariffs on their industries. And these guys are going to lose their shirts. In Alberta, we've got great love for our Maritimer friends because so many of them, after decades of Liberal Party quotas, end up out here in Alberta making a good living for their families in our oil and gas sector, so much so that we have Maritimer sections in some of our grocery stores. I know my local grocery store has a Maritimer section because there are so many people who come here after they've been run out of their own hometowns by Liberal Party policies. So
Sheila,
great look on the Liberals.
Congratulations, you've just offended the entire province of Newfoundland and Labrador. They're not part of the Maritimes. It's not a maritime province, but it's okay. Listen, it's what I do, Sheila. I try to educate people. I don't want any thanks. I don't want any money.
I was going to say Newfoundlanders. I didn't want to use Newfies because I know some people are okay with that and then some of them aren't. So I was sort of I was couching my language and then I got it wrong. But anyways, welcome.
Last thing
Newfoundlanders.
Before we move on, because it's the proof in the pudding, Sheila, that I do not hold grudges. And that is, those 2 years I lived in Newfoundland, the first year when I was in grade 8 was hellacious. I was endlessly bullied because I was a mainlander, a term I had never heard of until I moved to St. John's. I ran away as soon as the school bell would ring every day. I think I might have been able to make the track team back then. But regardless, going back to Newfoundland and subsequent occasions as an adult, got to know the people. They're lovely people. And again, you'd think I'd be marred for life after the hell I went through in grade 8. No, I don't hold a grudge. So, thumbs up, Newfoundland.
Yeah, I'm gonna do a quick ad read so we can pay the bills around here. I'm gonna breeze through some chats, and then we can go into the weird video that Mark Carney shot with somebody I mistook for Jamie Lee Curtis.
Another icon from horror movies.
Yes. Anyway, this sponsorship is from our friends at 1775 Coffee. Weak coffee is for the weak, and at Rumble, weak has never been part of the mission. No fillers, no fraud, and no settling for mediocrity, just like 1775 Coffee. It's single origin, small farm, hand-picked, specialty grade coffee that stands for quality, free speech, and calling out BS when it matters. Forget stale, mass-produced beans, roasted just enough to hide the flaws. Dark roast hits like a Trump tariff. Medium roast keeps it bold without the bitterness, and Vitality Mushroom Blend, real energy and lasting focus, no synthetic garbage. For K-Cup pods, whole bean, or fresh ground coffee, go to 1775coffee.com. Use code STUDIO for 15% off and start your morning with coffee that stands for something. Oh, and every dollar spent enters you to win a Cybertruck and $300,000 cash. We've got a few chats here. Temporary broken. It gives us $10 and says, I was injured at work. WCB, that's Workers' Compensation Board, accepts that I was injured, refuses benefits. At one point, WCB even removed her from her position. I don't know what that means, and changed definitions of medical terms in order to revoke my claim.
Well, all I have to say about that, Sheila, without knowing all the details of the case, my heart goes out to this person, because workers' compensation boards, it's not a bureaucracy onto themselves, it's a government onto themselves.
Yep.
And you have very few options if you're treated unfairly, and there's no shortage of stories of people getting screwed over by worker compensation boards. So I hope things pan out. I don't know the person's financial situation. If a lawyer can help, I don't even know if a lawyer is able to help, especially if you're in a unionized situation. That puts a major clamper on that. But if you want to write back or reach out to the Rebel News tips line and give us some point form details, maybe we can look into that.
I'm old enough to remember, I think it was in 2009, there was a guy who, Patrick Clayton, he pled guilty to taking hostages and pointing a firearm at the WCB offices in Edmonton over frustration with a claim. So there's that.
Jeez, you know what that reminds me of, Sheila? There used to be a hockey player with the Leafs in the 70s called Spinner Spencer. They made a movie about him, and his father went to the CBC in British Columbia. That's where they're originally from, because the Leafs game was supposed to be on TV, but by this time the Vancouver Canucks came into the league, so they blacked out the Leafs game and put the Canucks game in. I think, if memory serves, he was shot dead by the RCMP. And well, and there's, understandably, when you go somewhere with a gun,
Don't go places with guns.
Yeah. What's that?
Don't go places brandishing firearms, ever, never.
Yeah.
Aaron Burton, 32, gives us $10, says, hello, Rebels. I'm finally watching the show live. LOL. Also, the new graphics look great. They sure do. Thank you for that, Aaron.
Thank you, Aaron. And thank you. Is it Mike that does these graphics here at the team?
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
it is. Well, we always fail to give Mike the appropriate credit he so richly deserves. So way to go, Mike. The viewers are noticing.
Okay. We need to clear up a slight misinformation. Unless this is a joke. I can't tell because there's no sarcasm font. Thanks, Sheila and David and Ezra. I hear Ezra is going to run as an independent. Wow, very cool. I will support him. Love you guys. No, please don't give him any ideas. No, what he is doing is he's starting a third-party campaign advertiser group called For Canada. Yep. His video over the weekend explains it all. And that is because if you plan to spend over a certain amount, during a campaign on advertising, whatever that is, and that's the problem, you need to register as a third-party advertiser. So we have a billboard truck. We want to get the billboard truck out on the street. We don't want to be in violation of any campaign finance laws. So that's what For Canada is going to be doing.
And Sheila, I think it's safe to say that the likelihood of Ezra running for any position is somewhere between slim and none. He's way too busy as it is. I think he's having way too much fun doing what he's doing. And I would argue that if there's any rebel staffer that will be running for office, well, it's the Khaleesi herself as a senator in Alberta, which Ezra is endlessly going on.
That's one of Ezra's dreams. I'm not doing it.
Come on.
Like the work that I do. I feel like I make change this way. And I never want to be in government. I want to hold government to account. And so, again, that's one of the things that why I don't think, and I don't want to speak for Ezra, but why I don't think he would ever run for government is because I think he's more effective from the outside, making sure that Conservatives don't take for granted the Conservative voter and the promises they've made to those people.
Well, we're still going to nag you about it, Sheila, and or maybe the consolation prize, maybe Irelander Riley will run as a senator, get known as the youngest senator in Canadian history. What do you think about that?
Those girls have plans to change the world in their own respective ways. Alrighty. Woody Doppelganger gives us $5. Carney is so Canadian, he claims he's European. Yes, that is true. Carney's a fraud. He has actually 3 passports. I think that, the person I mistook for Jamie Lee Curtis also has 3 passports. Couldn't even get into office legitimately. Trusting Carney is like a rattlesnake.
Probably like trusting a rattlesnake. I love that line. He's so Canadian, he's European. And I got to be honest, Sheila, I'll take my chances with the rattlesnake. I think as long as you don't make any sudden movements and move back slowly, I think the rattlesnake's going to leave you alone. Carney, I'm always looking behind my back in case there's going to be a dagger going in.
Yeah, at least the rattlesnake makes some noise at you before it bites you. Yuta Bursey gives us $5. Mark is dead on his feet. His voice portrays it. I don't want him. Yeah, that is a corpse-like voice, isn't it? Billy Howard gives us $2. I hope I'm wrong, but I see Pierre Poilievre kowtowing to the CBC and increasing the anti-Trump climate cult BS. He's going to be Scheer 2.0 if he's not careful. That's, again, goes to my point that as a small c nonpartisan Conservatives on the outside of the political machinery, it's our job to hold Pierre Poilievre to account for the promises he makes to Conservative voters as well.
You know, I'll have to look into that, Sheila. No anecdote springs to mind. I hope the viewer is mistaken. Thanks for the donation, by the way. But you're right. This was what killed Andrew Scheer, and it especially killed Aaron O'Toole. You know, I'll never forget the 21 election, Sheila. The first 2 weeks, Blackface had an awful campaign. The first 2 weeks, Scheer had a brilliant campaign. O'Toole. And then the mushy middleists in the party or something got to him. And he started talking carbon taxes, and he started talking about a gun
grabs. And
it was like, talk about snatching defeat from the jaws of victory. It was totally self-inflicted. And the result, Conservatives stayed at home en masse that election. Sad.
Well, that's the thing. For a lot of Conservative voters, I wouldn't even call them Conservatives. They just show up to vote on their one issue, and that's the gun grab. And so he immediately alienated them. And that's like, from what I understand, one of the single largest fundraising issues for Conservatives. They know what gets people motivated and gets them out to vote: gun grabs. And he went, with the Liberals on that issue. It's just, and he signed the no carbon tax pledge. And then he was like, have I introduced you to my carbon? What was it? It wasn't a carbon tax. It was like a carbon budget. Just like a carbon tax in and of itself.
And Sheila, I have the perfect anecdote for what happened in 2021. The riding next to me is Richmond Hill. in 2019, that was the closest riding in Canada. I think it was decided by 200 votes in that neighborhood. In fact, the Conservative candidate, Kostas Minigakis, he went to bed that night thinking he was the MP. And then, where have you heard this before, folks? After they counted the mail-in ballots, well, it flipped. Anyways, 200 votes separated Minigakis from Majid Johari, the pro-Iranian regime MP. In 2021, Johari won, I think, by 5,000 ballots. Were people gravitating to Johari? No. Like I said, Conservatives stayed at home. We can't vote for anyone. And it's a cautionary tale for Team Poilievre. Don't do the same mistake a third time. It's toxic.
We've got one more chat here before we get into the next little bit of stuff. Again, the thing that I alluded to, I thought it was Jamie Lee Curtis. Somebody on X remarked that Anne Murray looks like hell these days. But first, this chat looks like a super chat from Donald Anderson. He gives us $50. Boy, that's generous, but I don't see a chat from you. Guys behind the scenes, if you see a chat from Donald Anderson that didn't attach, or if Donald got a little bit confused, let us know so we can be sure to read Donald's comments on air.
Thank you so much, Donald.
Okay, so I talked about this off the beginning of the show. We're rapidly running out of time, but I think if we do this, we're getting to all of our headlines. Mark Carney collabed with Mike Myers, who also holds 1, 2, maybe 3 passports. He's an American. He's also a Canadian. I think he got that guy from that Sears commercial fired. Do you remember that? No. And I think he might hold a passport from the British Isles. I'll dig up the thing about the guy getting fired from Sears after the commercial with Mike Myers. But look at this. Oh my goodness. Somebody get Mark Carney a shoulder brace. Does he have, he has the posture of a 70-year-old woman with osteoporosis. Look at that. A frail, sickly old woman. I just want to push my shoulders back when I see that. Anyways, this is one of their elbows up commercials. Let's watch this. Apparently they know what it means to be Canadian, although this is not going to resonate with anybody under the age of 35 or 40. I showed this to my daughter and she was like, what are these old dudes talking about?
Let's go. Mr. Prime Minister, Mike Myers, what are you doing
Jamie
here?
Lee Curtis.
I just thought I'd come up and check on things.
You live in the States.
Yeah, but I'll always be Canadian.
But you live in the States.
Yeah, so? Do you remember Mr. Dress Up, the children's show on CBC? What were the names of
My
Mr.
daughter's
Dress
like,
Up's two
who?
puppet friends? Casey and Finnegan, Bud the Spud, Howie, Meeker, Capital Saskatchewan, Regina, tragically, Hip.
You're a defenseman defending a 2-on-1. What do you do?
Take away the pass, obviously.
What are the 2 seasons in Toronto?
Winter and construction.
Wow. You really are Canadian.
Yeah. But let me ask you, Mr. Prime Minister, will there always be a Canada?
There will always be a Canada.
All right. Elbows up.
Elbows up.
Yeah, that's very interesting. What about the other Canadian tests, especially if you're in the GTA? What is Pizza's phone number? I know border guards sometimes ask that, and if you don't get that right, and it's a rhyming
I have no
number,
idea.
Yeah, well, it's 967-1111, you know. And I caught on early in the dating world when I'd ask a gal for a number and she'd give it to me, and I phone it, and it's the Pizza headquarters.
867-5309. Ask for Jenny.
Oh yeah. But you know, first of all, I want to say this, Sheila. You would think Mike Myers would go out of his way to disassociate himself with anything hockey related after one of the biggest bombs in the last quarter century, The Love Guru, one of the most unfunny movies ever made, which is problematic when it's marketed as a comedy. And secondly, elbows up. I want to go back to something I harkened on before. I'll make it very brief. Elbows up, we're defending Canada. Where was the elbows up crowd yesterday during all these Al-Quds rally hate fests? where they're denouncing Canadian values, where they'd rather fly a swastika than a Canadian flag. Yeah, where were you guys there? Nope, it's all about orange man derangement syndrome. So please give me a break.
Again, like the Liberal Party, the last leader elbowed that lady in the boob during the House of Commons, that melee. Like, I don't, could you have come up with a better slogan than elbows up? I guess Canada First was already taken, I suppose. Now there was an elbows up rally in Toronto,
Mm-hmm.
and Olivia Chow, good grief.
Talk about
I'm
Mr.
ready.
Dress Up.
I'm ready for the next Ben Bankus video on this. I'm waiting for the Ben Bankus voiceover on this. Let's hear how she was working the crowd.
We embraced, we do not divide. We build bridges rather than burning them. And when we are attacked, we stand together. We stand together to defend a place where we build together. As proud Canadians, we will not back down because we are stronger together. Hey, are we proud Canadians? Yeah! When I say we are, you say proud Canadian. We are proud Canadians! We are proud Canadians! One more time. We are proud Canadians! Will we ever be the 51st state? Never! Let's hear it one more time. Will we be the 51st state? Never! We will and forever be Canada. Elbows up, everybody! Let's go!
I hope all these elbows up people remembered to use deodorant before they left the house. But anyway, Sheila, let me tell you something about division when it's the city of Toronto. And I remember writing about this many years for Canadian Business when it was still around. And I know it's still a thing today. In the city of Toronto, if you want to do contract work for them, your company must be unionized. Okay. So if you had Sheila Gunn Reid Carpentry and you're a law-abiding, tax-paying Canadian employing other Canadians, you are automatically disqualified from the tendering process. When I wrote about this back then, this was costing the city more than $300 million a year, this union virtue signaling. I am positive it's more now, given the cost of living. So basically, there's your division. You running a company that's non-unionized, you're a law-abiding Canadian citizen, you pay your taxes, you are a second-class citizen in the eyes of union-obsessed city of Toronto. I think that's about as divisive as it gets, Sheila.
I was more taken in by the average age of that crowd, which appears to be closer to like 70, 75. I saw somebody on X remark, elbows up, bone density down. I don't know. This is one of, like, what does that solve right there? What's the tangible thing? I'm reliably informed by the very same people that being pro-Canada and waving the flag like that was a symbol of white supremacy. And now it's, if you don't wave the flag aggressively enough, you're some sort of Trump asset. I wish these people would help me keep these things straight. Actually, Woody Doppelganger sends us a chat along the same lines, gives us $10 and says, where was elbows up when the Emergencies Act was revoked and innocent protesters were arrested? I don't trust liberals. Canada proud only when you need my vote. Canada first. And then he hashtags Pierre Poilievre for prime minister.
Yeah, thank you for that donation. And by the way, Sheila, both of you are 100% right. I think the iconic image of the trucker convoy protests of 2022, it was somebody in a pickup with a hockey stick flying a Canadian flag. I mean, you couldn't get more Canadian than that. And I'll tell you, I interviewed some of these people, and what was amazing is that Imagine this. You're in a pickup truck driving down the highway or a road with a hockey stick flying the Canadian flag, and not a day would go by when somebody would pass them the window down, middle finger up. Can you imagine a Canadian flag being displayed in Canada? Those people giving the middle finger to the trucker supporters, I am sure, are the same people right now suddenly going out and buying Team Canada jerseys and buying Canadian flags. The hypocrisy is unbelievable.
You want to talk about hypocrisy? I saw this post on X yesterday, and I just thought unimaginably clueless, but just so chef's kiss liberal voter. It says Dollarama, a Canadian company, now has almost an entire aisle dedicated to Canadiana stuff, from big Canadian flags to key holders. If you want to show some support for Canada, there are plenty of ways to do so. Yes,
you got to be kidding.
Go get your Chinese-made Canadian flags to show support for Canada. Liberal voters.
Sheila, that's unbelievable. I thought this was because I didn't know the point you were getting to, because I thought when they were talking about an aisle dedicated to Canadiana, I'm more concerned about it being made in Canada, even if it doesn't have.
They don't care about that stuff.
Yeah.
They want us to buy Canadian stuff that could be using slave labor in China as China tariffs the daylights out of our farmers and fishermen.
You know what, Sheila? I'm going to go to a Dollarama sometime this week, and I'm going to ask the staff. I don't mean to put the staff on the in a difficult position, but I'll just simply say, hey, what can I buy here? Anything that was made in Canada. I'm sure there's
get some chips.
Yeah, there'll be some foodstuffs, but certainly all the trinkets and trash. 95% has been sourced from China. So
yeah. Let's go in this announcement this morning. So yesterday, I think Carney. Yesterday, yes, when he, for some reason, instead of announcing the election, made a campaign speech and then announced the election. He said that there would be, I think it's a 1% tax cut. Poilievre said they're going to cut income taxes by 15%. I'm listening. Let's hear it.
So the choice in this election is very simple. Do you want a fourth Liberal mandate where they will raise your taxes and drive up your costs? Or do you think it's time to put Canadian taxpayers first for a change with a new Conservative government? And that's why I'm here today. Today I'm announcing that Canada First Conservatives will cut income taxes by 15% for the average worker, or $2,000 for the average couple. This is a tax cut for seniors who are drawing their pension or retirement income. They will pay, on average, 15% less. This is a tax cut for the workers behind me, who will pay 15% less on their income tax. This is a tax cut for the waitress, for the welder, for the barber. This is a tax cut for everybody who has ever got up early in the morning and worked hard to build our country. This is a tax cut that will put Canada first. We will do it by reducing the lowest bracket from 15 to 12.75, which is a 2.25% percentage point reduction, and that works out to a 15 percentage reduction in the overall tax bill of everyone earning up to $57,000. That said, because we are cutting the lowest bracket, every single Canadian who pays income tax will pay less. Modest income people will pay less in relative terms and as a share of their overall income. We will ensure that this money goes right into people's pockets so that they can make the decisions. They will then spend that money at local small businesses, who will then be able to hire more people, creating even more powerful paychecks on which the taxes will be further still lowered. It is part of an overall plan, what I call the Bring It Home tax cut. It's an across-the-board tax cut on energy, work, investment, and home building.
Sheila, the first thing that stands out in that announcement by Mr. Poilievre is every Canadian getting the 15% tax cut. Because, and I'm almost sure of this, but I believe Mr. Carney's tax cut, your salary is capped at 58,000.
Right.
So it would basically work out to $800 in savings a year. So I got to ask, if you are earning if you're earning $58,001, you ain't going to qualify for the Carney cut. Where do you think you're going to get the biggest bang for your buck in terms of these
Right.
two parties? Yeah.
Right. And, if you're earning $58,000 in the Liberals Canada, you may as well be living in poverty. I don't know how you afford a house. Yeah, I don't know
100%.
how you afford a house, a car, food, utilities. I mean, just given the inflation, there are parts of this country where you need a roommate or two to make ends meet at that salary. So, I don't know.
Or in certain houses in Brampton, a roommate or 22.
We've got a chat here from Wayne Casby. Gives us $50. Thank you so
Nice.
much. And he says, the more the Liberals dislike you, the more I loves ya. Yeah.
Oh, I'll take
you.
it.
Yeah. You know what? I'm happy with that.
Thank you so much for that very generous donation.
And I know Donald Anderson said he got a little confused when he sent his $50 chat, but he's glad to support us as well. So maybe that's why we didn't have a chat attached to that. But Donald, we sure appreciate you. We've got a quick ad read from Rumble, and then I'll let you pick the last topic.
Okay.
David. So this sponsorship is from Rumble. It's one that's incredibly important to the survival of our company, but also Rumble's. When Rumble first started in 2013, they built a platform for the small creator. They didn't censor or have biases. They were fair and treated all creators equally. No one thought platforms would censor political conversations or censor opinions on COVID, but they did. Facebook admitted they felt a pressure from the Biden and Harris administration. Same thing happened in Canada. If you notice that maybe sometimes your Facebook posts disappeared during COVID, it's because Health Canada was pressuring Facebook to remove them. Rumble did not. They held the line. They are attacked daily for giving us a voice to talk to you. They're attacked in corporate media. They're attacked by governments like France. They're attacked from brand advertisers who refuse to work with them. Corporate America is fighting to remove speech. Rumble is fighting to keep it. Rumble, however, won't survive with brand advertisers as they don't get much of it. Watching our show on Rumble is the most they can ask from you, but if you really believe in this fight and if you have the means, one major way you can help Rumble survive is by joining Rumble Premium. Join the community that believes in the First Amendment and believes in our human right to free speech. Rumble is offering $10 off with the promo code STUDIO when you purchase an annual subscription. Go to rumble.com/premium and use the promo code STUDIO. Like I said, if you have the means and believe in the cause, now's the time to join Rumble Premium. And if you don't have the means, we're just happy if you watch us on Rumble. And before I move on from this, let me give you yet another reason to join Rumble Premium. Just cancel your YouTube Premium, move it over to Rumble Premium. Because if you are a Rumble Premium member, we are streaming premium content, as in Rebel News Plus content, after the live stream today. So if you want to catch Ezra Levant's paywalled show from Friday in full, and you are a Rumble Premium member, you're going to catch it after the live stream. Just stay on the live stream and you can watch Ezra's show in full. So that's a special perk for Rumble Premium members from us here at Rebel News. So hopefully that inspires some of you to get that Rumble Premium subscription so you can get your Rebel News Premium content, but also a lot of other great creators, premium content, and support a platform that supports your right to free speech. So I think that's it. David, did you pick the last?
I sure did. Here's a video from Darcy Media, and my goodness gracious,
Daisy Media.
Daisy, I'm sorry, didn't have my glasses on. Daisy Media, my apologies. And my goodness gracious, Sheila, it shows how much the world has changed in just 3 years, because as Daisy Media indicates, swastikas and horn honking are now completely acceptable in Ottawa. I go back to the trucker convoy. There was that outrageous hit job.
Fed.
Yes. With that mysterious swastika and I know our beloved colleague Alexa Lavoie did fantastic post analysis of where that flag was, who those people are. It's still shrouded in some mystery. But I remember horn honking, according to Canada's biggest self-hating Jew, Yara Sachs. That's an acronym for Heil Hitler. But what do I know? Swastikas and horn honking are completely acceptable in Ottawa now. I wonder why. Let's check out the video.
No, but we need protection from them.
Elbows up. So we are accusing lots of people of being Nazis. Without evidence, it would seem. Police showing up here now. A lot of signs accusing various people of being Nazis, broadly accusing all kinds of people of being Nazis. Also a sign featuring a swastika. All of a sudden, also, horns are okay and encouraged in Ottawa. The ever so traumatic horns that terrorized everyone in Ottawa are now okay. Nazi signs are okay. Swastikas on signs are also now okay in Ottawa.
I don't want to be repetitive, Sheila, but I would have a whole lot more respect for the elbows up movement if they showed up yesterday in front of these vile Islamists celebrating Al-Quds Day. And let's face it, Al-Quds Day has been every weekend in our Dominion since October 7th, 2023. But no, they terrorize a Tesla dealership. And by the way, something we're having our eyes out for, folks. Evidently, Friday the 29th is supposed to be a Tesla day of action. I hope the police en masse are outside every Tesla dealership in the nation. And if anyone dares to cross the line, they need to be dealt with the swiftest repercussions imaginable. This is absolutely gross what's going out. That's all I have to say.
You know what? They're at a Tesla dealership calling Elon Musk a Nazi.
Yeah.
The guy is incredibly pro-Israel. He calls himself aspirationally Jewish. He's part of the Bring Them Home movement for Jewish hostages who were taken on October 7th. He's attended Netanyahu's address to Congress. Netanyahu has personally defended him against smears by the likes of these people. Are these people crazy? Frankly, these are probably the same people who would be out in the streets marching with the pro-Gaza protesters, with the gall to accuse Elon Musk of being a Nazi.
You know, Sheila, it's worse than you know, because I've been monitoring U.S. media, and when they refer to Elon Musk, half the time they will say Elon Musk, comma, born in apartheid South Africa, comma.
As if he had something to do with it.
Exactly. So, you know, Lady Menzoid, comma, born in apartheid South Africa. Yeah, I guess I'm married to a white supremacist, a racist too. I mean, there's a difference between being born in a country under odious rule and being part of its government. That is despicable, and they would never do it the other way around. They would never describe one of their friends as saying, such and such, born in Gaza, where women and the queer community have no rights. No, they would never do that. You know, so this is why the mainstream media is failing and becoming more of a sunset industry right in front of our eyes. We ain't buying what they're selling.
I just want to, before we sign off, show this like beautiful, beautiful, inspirational photo of the electricity and momentum of Chrystia Freeland's campaign launch.
Uh-oh.
Can we show it? Look at this crowd. Do we have it? It's a tweet. X post. Sorry, I must correct myself. Have you seen it?
I just saw it now. That's
huge crowd supporting Freeland at subway station as she kicks her campaign off.
Oh,
whew.
If only I had known. I'm trying to figure out which subway station that is. Does anyone know? Olivia, do you know? Is it Davisville? No, it's not Davis.
It would be in her riding somewhere.
Oh, Rosedale. Oh, you want to believe Fraulein Freeland has her SUV idling by in case some deplorable like me showed up.
Shuffles out.
But she ain't taking the subway to get away from me.
Yeah, look at that. Are you
Ooh.
just swept up in this Carney mania? Wow. These were what she posted. These were the best photos taken that day.
Unbelievable. And Sheila, thank you, my dear Khaleesi, for giving me added ammunition to the fact that these polls are bullshit. I do not believe it. I just do not believe.
I don't know. People have to vote like them polls are real, though.
Yeah, and like I said,
vote like the polls are real, but they're probably wrong.
Well, yeah, let conservatives and others who don't want blackface and Carney government back again, let them believe it's real so they're motivated to get out there and vote. And by the way, folks, vote in the advance polls. You know, Sheila, I got to tell you, I cannot remember a single time in my adult life where I ever voted on election day. I would think that in the week coming up to the election, you pretty well made up your mind. So don't let that be an excuse. You know, you get busy with, shuttling the kids to soccer and, well, you know what, Poilievre's going to do well. It's in the bag. They don't need my single vote. No, you got to get out the vote. You must.
If you learned anything from what happened in British Columbia, every vote counts, every single one, because some of these ridings are coming down to just a handful. You have to get the vote out so that the turnout is higher than that of the meddling.
100%, Sheila. And like I said, when I go to the advance polls, I have never waited more than 5 minutes. Actually, 5 minutes is a long wait. I usually walk in, there's nobody there. So, if you know who you're voting for, folks, take a few minutes, that's it, out of your life on an advance voting day. Trust me, you are not going to wait hardly any time at all.
I'll get to the last few chats and then we'll close on something fun out of Texas, although I don't know why this is news. Given that it's Texas, because it probably wouldn't be news here in Alberta. And I feel a special kinship with Texans on this problem. If you have any chats, guys, get them in right now because we're going to wrap the show in a couple of minutes. So this one is, again, from Woody Doppelganger. It gives us $2. The hypocrisy is gross. Thanks, guys. Stay awesome. We'll do what we can. Nana Awake, $10. We haven't heard from you in a while, Nana Awake. So these anti-fossil fuel radicals are attacking Tesla and Elon. I guess EV ideology goes out the window when it's not convenient.
Oh, Sheila, if I may weigh in on that, because I think I've mentioned this a couple of times. I've seen at least 3 times this Tesla. It's a white Tesla, usually around Avenue Road in St. Clair, usually when we're going down to Young Dundas Square or whatever they call it now for streeters. And it's a vanity plate. And the vanity plate says RIP oil. Like no oil went into the manufacture of a Tesla. But, that's an absolutely valid point. Elon Musk and Tesla have been the darlings of the left for well over a decade. And suddenly, because he's giving of himself to cut spending and corruption and duplicity in government and, on the side, rescuing astronauts, he's being vilified to the point that people are setting fire to their Teslas. It is grotesque. I have no other word for it.
Yep. Alex Greer gives us $2.79 and says, thanks again, Rebels. I think that's it, unless there are any chats that come in last minute. But apparently they have a problem in Texas right now.
Oh.
There are cows loose on the highway. And everybody's freaking out. Look at that cop is booking it. You want that cop at your local rodeo. Jeez. Look at him go. Yeah. So apparently this is news. They've got the traffic copters involved. I guess it's because it's on a busy highway, but there are cows on the loose all the time, all the time in Alberta. So, I don't know. I guess it's because it's on a busy highway, but that's on I-95 near Spring, Texas.
What was faster, Sheila? Those cows running on the highway or the O.J. Simpson chase from yesterday?
I feel like that cop was
I'm
uh,
impressed. I'm
that
impressed.
cop was faster than the white Bronco. That's for sure. I am really impressed. He's got a good stride on him.
Yep.
All right. I think
Fantastic.
that's the end of the show.
Well, Sheila, it was a delight. And I want to thank everybody out there that made a donation. Some nice ones, $50.
Yeah,
That's so
wow.
generous.
Thanks, you guys.
Absolutely. We really appreciate it. So I may or may not be back on Friday, depending on this Tesla insanity. I think it's very important for us to get out in the field, find out who's who in the zoo, and find out if anyone really is going to cross the line into violence and vandalism. So I'm sort of, it's unknown if I'll be back this Friday. But regardless, I will be back at some time. You'll see Sheila all through the week, I think tomorrow with the
I'm
lovely
chained.
Lise.
Chained to this desk.
Yes. So until next time, folks, as always, stay safe and stay sane.
Tonight, the polls suggest Mark Carney is going to win the next Canadian election, but I'm here to tell you that's possible, but it's absolutely not set in stone. It's March 21st, and this is the Ezra Levant